If you've watched my channel for a while, I think it's pretty obvious that I love my job. I feel so blessed that I get to run and get paid for it. Like, I would do this for free. So the fact that I am able to make a career out of it is amazing. But that doesn't mean that professional running is easy. Through the last 6 years, I've had a variety of professional running experiences. Through these experiences and my involvement in the sport, I've learned the truth about professional running. And some of it is not what you would expect. In this video, I'll go into the secrets of professional running contracts, some of the expectations on professional runners, and my own personal struggles as a pro. So just for a little backstory, in 2019, I graduated from college as a 3-time NCAA champion, and I signed a professional contract with Brooks Running. I was with them for 2 years, but I went through an injury cycle and eating disorder treatment, and I ended up leaving the team at the end of 2021. Then I went without a professional contract for a year until at the end of 2022, I signed with a trail running brand, Normal, which was founded by Killian Jornet. I was with Normal 2 years until very recently I signed a contract with Ostrander. I'm really excited about it and I can't wait to continue to represent them. First off, pro runners are not employees of the companies that they run for. They're actually contracted workers, which is not advantageous for the athletes for a few reasons. First off, that means that you have to pay self-employment taxes. Usually when you get a paycheck, your employer pays the self-employment taxes for you, but when you're contracted, they don't. So that's an extra 15 to 20% out of every paycheck that athletes have to pay to taxes. Next, there are no benefits. So you don't get a 401k, retirement plan, health insurance, any of that with your job. Anything that you want to do with your retirement, you have to set up yourself, and you have to pay health insurance completely out of pocket. And third, it's also just an unstable career. These contracts are like 1 to 3 years long, and if you're not improving and performing at a really high level during that time, you won't get re-signed. A lot of professional running contracts are 20, 30K. Some athletes are only getting gear and bonuses and no base pay. And then there are, of course, athletes at the other end of the spectrum that are making millions or hundreds of thousands, but there's a vast majority that's somewhere in between, making 50 to 80K a year and putting in a lot of work for that amount of money. With these contracts, they are closed, which means that most athletes sign an NDA so they cannot disclose how much they make, which makes it really hard for athletes to know their worth and have any negotiating power unless they have an agent. And agents are great. They help you negotiate a contract, they help you book your travel, they help you invoice your expenses to companies, but that all comes at a price, which is 20% of your contract. Even though runners aren't necessarily raking it in, they're giving 15 to 20% to taxes and then 20% to an agent, which is a big hit. And these contracts are already incredibly difficult to get. Just to put it in perspective, every year in the NFL draft, 250 players out of college are given NFL contracts. Whereas every year out of college, there's probably 10 to 15 males and 10 to 15 females that get pro contracts. It's not very many. And once you're out of college, it's even harder to get a contract. There are literally people making the Olympics, which is so hard to do, that don't have contracts. As a professional runner, there's a lot of expectation to do all the little things, including taking supplements. I've never been someone that has an extensive supplement routine, and I really like the simplicity of AG1. I just take 1 scoop every morning, and it provides me with the vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that I need from whole food ingredients to fill my nutrition gaps. I also really trust AG1 because my coach, David Roach, is a huge advocate for it and the benefits it has for performance. So I think it's a really easy thing to incorporate into my routine every day, and it helps me feel like I'm really doing everything that I can for my performance. I also love that AG1 has B vitamins to support my energy throughout the day, which I definitely need to be able to train at a high level. It's also NSF certified for sport, which ensures its quality and safety. A lot of healthy habits can be hard to maintain, but AG1 makes it really easy. This is a simple step I can take for my health and performance every day. If you'd like to try AG1, you can use my link or scan the QR code to subscribe and save $20 off your first subscription. And every new customer using my link gets $76 of free extras. Thank you, AG1, for sponsoring this video. Even once you get a contract, one of the other catches is that there are structures in contracts called bonuses and reductions. Bonuses are great for athletes. It means basically if you reach a certain time standard, get a place in a big race, set a record like American or a world record, then you make extra money. And there are two types of bonuses. One is where you get a one-time extra payment. The other one is a rollover bonus, where that payment is added to your salary every single year afterwards. But athletes also have to deal with the opposite of that, because some contracts have reductions. And that basically means if you don't hit a certain time standard, if you don't race a certain amount of times, if you don't get a certain place at a race, then your contract is reduced. And this is usually by a percentage of the contract. I've heard of this in many athletes' contracts where if they don't make a US team, they get reduced, which is crazy because it's so difficult to make a US team. And having that sort of pressure, I literally can't imagine. And I get that all professional sports have a lot of pressure and contracts are based off of performance, but I just feel like reductions aren't necessary because athletes are already so intrinsically motivated to want to perform. Everyone is doing the best they can, and I feel like punishing athletes extra for them not performing is just hitting them when they're down and can really send athletes into a negative spiral. And it's compounded because it's an individual sport. The performance is really on you individually, whereas in a team sport, it's kind of spread across the entire team, makes it a little bit easier to handle. So in conclusion, runners have an unstable career, they pay a lot extra in taxes, they pay a lot to their agents, they can get reduced at a moment's notice, and they get no benefits, no retirement plan. So I'm really selling you guys on the professional running life right now. But those are just some of the ins and outs of pro contracts. Now I want to go into the expectations on pro runners. As opposed to other jobs where you often get PTO or holidays off, runners don't get that. And probably most professional athletes don't get that. This is not specific to running. It's just that most of the year there is an expectation that you will be training and racing. It kind of just completely ignores holidays, weekends, family events, anything. It doesn't matter if you have something going on. If there are races happening, you have to be training, and that's just the way things are. As I already said, in the contract, there's a lot of pressure to perform. It creates a difficult environment. And one of the things about that is that there's a lot of guilt associated with any sort of setback. If you get injured or if you get an illness, all of the culpability for that is placed on the athlete, which of course, it's not like it's anyone else's fault. You're pushing your body so hard every day. You're riding this razor's edge of doing as much as you can, but not doing too much. A lot of that does put you at risk for both injuries and illness, and they're bound to happen at some point to almost every professional athlete out there. So when it does happen, it really hurts to have so much guilt about it and to feel like it's your fault and you've done something wrong and there's something bad about you for letting this happen, when in reality, maybe it would have happened either way, or you did everything you could to stop it, but it just occurred. I just think that that's an unhealthy feeling to have over something that almost is inevitable. In addition to that, there's a lot of pressure to come back quickly from injuries and to maintain your shape while you're injured, cross-training really hard, doing a lot of rehab, getting back as quick as possible, and getting to top fitness and racing as quick as possible, which obviously is what athletes would want to do anyways. But when there's pressure on it and it's a little bit rushed, sometimes it can cause you to get into an injury cycle. I've definitely had this in the past where I just got injured and then I felt like I would fall behind if I didn't do everything I could to keep up, but I just ended up training too hard through injuries and getting injured again. Part of that pressure comes from the third thing, which is it's hang on or get left behind. Especially in team environments, the training in the program is usually based around the the people in the group that are the fittest at the time, which makes complete sense. And I am not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it exists. And so when you're coming back from injury, you're often put into a workout group and just expected to hang on or do the best you can or run part of their workout with them. When you're coming back from an injury, you got to be able to fit into the team or get left behind. That's just the way it is. And it's a little bit different if it's not a team, but there still is pressure from whatever brand you're running for to represent them and to be getting top performances. The next thing is there is definitely an expectation to look fit. And that just comes naturally with being a runner, having your body on display every single race. Even if the coach and team you're on never mention weight or body image, there is just this resounding message through the whole sport that if you look like very lean and thin, then you're fit and you're ready to race. And because of that, it kind of feels like if you don't look that way, you're not doing what you should. But in reality, like, not everyone's made to look that way, and it might actually inhibit your performance if you try to manipulate your body to look that way. Then there's the lock-in mentality. Athletes are expected to do every single little thing, especially leading up to championship season. Not just the running and the workouts, but the lifting, the heat training, the rehab, the athletic trainer visits, the visualization, the sleep recovery, journaling, the sports psychologist, the nutrition, all of this stuff. It's the same sort of situation with like the guilt thing, where it's like you kind of have to do all that, because if you don't and your performance doesn't go how it should, then you're to blame. But if you do all of that and your performance doesn't go well, then at least like you did all of it. But what if like not all of it actually works for every athlete, and there are certain things that don't help them, but they still are expected to do that, otherwise you're culpable? And it's just a weird like dynamic to have. And I think that locking in is really important for athletes, but everyone and how they lock in is going to be very different, and there shouldn't just be this like general expectation of every single athlete to do this certain thing. And the final thing with expectations of athletes, and this is not really an expectation, it's really hard to keep identity separate from your performance, especially when you have a brand telling you that this time is worth this dollar amount and you as an athlete are worth this dollar amount. It's hard to think of your value as separate from your athletic value or your athletic performance. It's something that I've struggled with, and I really don't know how to fully keep them separate when so much of my time and my energy is dedicated to my performance. It starts to feel like my performance is me, myself, when in reality it's not. And that leads into my final topic, which is things that I struggle with as a pro. And the first thing is body image, which I kind of mentioned in the look fit category. I've really had a hard time with seeing my body and accepting it the way it looks, instead of wanting to look like other pros or the most like lean person on the line, and instead accepting that my body and the way it looks when I'm fueling it well and training intentionally is the way it should look. It's hard for me to see it that way. And the next thing that is pretty specific to me and not really other pro runners is balancing pro running and content creation. I am a full-time pro runner, but I also am a full-time content creator, and I do all of my own editing, so it can be a lot. Yeah, hey, this is me editing. It's a lot. And also my content is about running, so it's definitely a balance of making sure that I'm doing intentional training, never doing specific workouts or races or challenges for content's sake, and making sure that I'm keeping all of it very specific to my running goals, and also that I'm still finding the time to relax and recover, not just spending all of my spare time working on content, because it is hard to feel like I'm ever doing enough, because there's always more that I could do. And that's hard for me as a type A perfectionist personality. Next is managing stress about the future. And this goes back to that type A perfectionist personality, in that I have a hard time with the instability of being a professional runner. I really want to have like a 10-year, 20-year, 50-year plan, know exactly where my life is going. But as it stands now, I have a career in running and I don't know how long that will last. I don't know how long it will be until my running goals will be in the past. And that's a little bit hard. I wish that I had a stable income for the next rest of my life, but I don't. And I definitely have a hard time not stressing about that and not constantly worrying about what I'm gonna do when running is done. Finally, the hard thing for me has been finding the exact system that works. As I said, this is the third brand that I've run for, and I think every time I've learned something new about myself and what I need to succeed. I have moved to Boulder. I've found a great coach in David Roach. I have an amazing partner in Spencer, super supportive family, friends and people to run with, and an amazing athletic trainer. I feel like I'm finally in a situation that works super well for me individually, but it took me a while to get here and I had to learn a lot, make a lot of mistakes along the way, but I am really happy where I'm at now and stoked for my goals moving forward. With that, I think that's pretty much all the tea I have to spill about professional running. I hope that you maybe learned something or found something interesting in this video. If not, I appreciate that you watched to the end while learning nothing and finding nothing interesting. Like, that's props to you. Good attention span there. And if you did happen to enjoy the video, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe. Almost at 100K and I can't wait to hit that mark, so if you could just add one more to the tally, I would appreciate it so much. But anyways, that's all for now, folks.